to start the penultimate chapter of Volume 6. The United Kingdom are preparing another offensive to the Dragonfang Mountain. They attempted one before, but they failed and they had to retreat to the second front. They predict that the Legion would increase their watch over that area, and if the humans didn't attack the Legion, then they would unleash a final attack on the United Kingdom. However, before all of this, the strike package have been collecting the remains of the Zentors from previous battles and adjusted them so they could be used against the Legion to attack by launching projectiles of their own to their defensive line. Lena explains the details of the new Dragonfang Mountain assault operation to the leaders of each squadron, as the objective hasn't changed. The priority is the capture of the Merciless Queen and the destruction of all the Weisel and Admiral units, just like in the underground terminal operation from Volume 4. Vika's squad, along with the strike package, will be invading the Legion base, breaking through the Legion territories with brute force, while everyone else will try to keep the route safe for them to attack and retreat. And before they head out, Shin and Vika converse about another weapon they are using known as the Thrones, which were combustible objects pressed between two wheels. They were used to bombard at the Legion's defensive line, creating an opening for an invasion route. They also use another bomb-like weapon called the Daisy Cutter, which were also being launched by the Zentors to take out some of the Eintagsfliege in the sky. We also find out it was Andrew and Karena that were in charge of the Zentors, and for plot reasons, they both had to wear the cicada to accomplish this task. And with that finished and an invasion route formed, Lena wishes everyone good luck. From the Merciless Queen and the Legion's perspective, they found Lena's plan to be predictable, as she commanded her army to exterminate all enemy units in sight. And as they all head out, Lena activated her resonance, targeting one person. I think we all know who it is. She apologizes to Shin for being too intrusive and says she should have waited until he was ready to talk about it himself. But she didn't believe that he would tell her, and that was a mistake on Lena's behalf. But she still wanted him to tell her what's bothering him, and she wanted him to rely on her, as she wanted to be someone who could support him. She tells him that they haven't spoken to each other enough yet, so she suggests that they just talk whenever he's back and start from the most trivial and silliest thing, and someday he will tell her about his pain. Shin fell silent and Lena smiled at him. The residents couldn't allow them to see face to face unless they used a tactic from Volume 1 where she borrowed someone's eye, and the residents was able to transmit the emotions that a face-to-face conversation would have. After their conversation, Annette goes on another side mission with a pilot, setting herself up as bait and revealing her location to the Legion to confirm if they really are listening to their transmissions. As the operation continues, Vika was impressed that the Legion are moving just as Lena predicted, and they were able to get the defending Alknost into an advantageous position against the attacking Legion. As Vika's units and the strike package continue to advance, Vika offers them to come to the United Kingdom next winter to show them what a real winter looks like, and he tells them, "The world is larger and wider than what you know. You're free to disparage it if you so wish, but know that you still haven't seen nearly enough of the world to give up on it." Later on, Lena sends them a three-dimensional map of the Legion base based on the intel they got from Shin's ability. The base had 3 sectors. The first sector was on the surface, which contained the Weisel production unit. The second sector was located near Volcanic Pipe and is most likely the Admiral's production plant unit, as it was built there so they could use the heat source as energy. And the third sector was located deep underground, adjacent to the Volcanic Pipe, and it's the speculated location of the Merciless Queen. They called the sector the Throne Room. The plan was to have Yuto and the Thunderbolt Squadron to handle the Weisel in the first sector. Then Vika and Rito's squadron will handle the Admiral on the second sector, and the Spirit Squadron will seize the Merciless Queen on the third sector, while the Norlich and Lycaon Squadron will protect them from the outside, along with some leftover Sirens to ensure no Legion will interfere with the infiltration. And given the time restraint for the operation, destroying the Phonix was a low priority, as they blast open an entry into the base. Covering the ceilings were a force of Legion units that descended from the air as they engaged in combat. Now, sitting deep in the Legion base, the Merciless Queen watched the battle unfold. She was able to recognize Vika's personal mark of the Serpent, as he was one of the Legion's high priority targets, and she recalled the memories she had with him before the Legion War started, and she also saw Undertaker on her feed, who intrigued her. As they continued their infiltration, Vika found himself surrounded by legions. Raiden and Lurka noticed this and turned their felt trust towards him, which Vika had a smirk on his lips and said, "Don't underestimate me, you pieces of cannon fodder." The moment he said that, Vika's Gaduka locked onto multiple enemies as all of its turrets fired projectiles all around it as he silenced all the enemies around him in a single barrage. As they finished taking out the legions on the interior, the group split up and headed towards their assigned task. But as the Spirit Squadron were on their way to descend down to the 3rd sector, they realized they couldn't stay down there as the temperature was too high for the Regan Leafs, so they had to make a minor change to their plan as they wouldn't last more than 4 hours in the heat. This also meant the Phonix wasn't likely going to be at the base, since it was likely unsuitable for the hot temperature. As the Spirit Squadron heads deeper into the tunnels, they enter a wide temple-like space that had hot air sweeping out like geysers. Touching them would probably overheat the Regan Leafs, and fighting down there would be a big headache. It would be a shame if they had to fight down there. Well, would you look at that? The Shepherd Dinosauria that they fought that knocked out Shin is here and has ambushed them. Shin knew the voice, as he recalled the memory from a time before he joined the Spirit Squadron. It's about time you think of a personal name, isn't it? How about Baliger? It's a god pseudonym. You've got pretty red eyes after all. That person said it with a smile, then went on to die in his very next battle. As they were about to fight, Shin heard the sounds of an artificial scream. After battling with it twice, he knew it was the Phonix. However, the voice did not come from the Dragonfang Mountain, but from the back of the invasion route. Shin thought about why would it be located there, when he realized it was going north, towards Lena and the command center. And upon hearing Shin's warning, Lena thought why would it attack the command center, as using the Phonix for defending against an invasion would be a better option strategically. But they had to act quick. So Lena sends out Shiden and the Bersingaman Squadron to intercept it. Shiden noticed some unnatural movement approaching her on the radar, so she got the Bersingaman Squadron to fire at it as they were able to strip off the optical camouflage. They were able to fire a heat shell at it. However, it then scattered into pieces as they lost sight of it. It reappeared in another location and cut down one of their units with its chain blade. They fired at it again and it took the hit. However, it dispersed again. They had no idea what was happening until Wenzel tells them that they're attacking a duplicate made out of its liquid armor while the real Phonix is taking them out one by one. They didn't know how to counter this attack, but if they knew its goal, they could use that to predict its next actions, which its goal was to attack the command center. But why? Lena thought. After some thinking, she came to the conclusion that the reason is because the Legion became aware of Shin's ability to hear them. And by using Shin as bait for the retaking of the Citadel base in the previous volume, the Legion knew that the humans knew that the Legion was targeting Shin specifically. And with all that in mind, the purely mechanical intelligent Phonix calculated the best place to have someone with Shin's ability would be the command center, which is why it was heading towards there. However, the Phonix was wrong, as Shin is currently located at the Dragonfang Mountain, so it doesn't know Shin's true location. With all that information, Lena orders everyone to evacuate. Then she spoke in a loud voice into a microphone, and her channel was set to all bandwidths so that the Legion can hear her. Her plan was to draw the Phonix towards her, which she got its attention as something invisible in the snow took off. Which everyone thought Lena was crazy for using herself as bait, but she was fully prepared for the worst, as she got Wenzel to take over if anything happened to her. Shin was grinding his teeth as he thought about the regret he'll have if he lost Lena. He said in his mind, "I can't lose her. I can't lose Lena. Not here. Even if she's acting on her own accord, I can't let her die selfishly like this." He tells Raiden and Theo to cover for him as Undertaker retreated. As Shin left, he closed his eyes and pushed his ability to its limits to locate where the Phonix was. And Shin warned Shiden the exact moment the Phonix would attack, and Shiden pulled the trigger as it was right in front of her. At the same moment, Theo and Raiden were battling the Dinosauria. It was a steel monstrosity that weighed 100 tons, and it was slightly slower than a Regan Leaf, as it rushed towards them with caution, as if it was likely a name bearer when it was an 86. And coupled with the terrain advantage, things were not looking good for Raiden and Theo, but they had a smile plastered on their lips. After all, we can't afford to lose this. It was then that a cold sensation of a siren joined the resonance. If you two kind gentlemen will allow it, I, Vera, will open a way for you. Please use it to pass through. The Alkanaust moved forward as she crawled over one of the geysers and blocked it. Theo then stepped over the back of the Alkanaust and jumped in midair as he shot the rear of the Dinosauria. At the exact same time Theo pulled his trigger, Shiden pulls her trigger as both legions let out an inaudible scream. They are about to take out the Dinosauria and the Phonix's liquid dummy. However, the real Phonix got away. Shin heaved a sigh of relief as he noticed that the Phonix is leaving the command center and was heading towards the Dragon Fang Mountain. The reason why it was heading there now is because if Shin was actually at the command center, the Phonix thought he would have came out by now. Lena was grinding her teeth in frustration as she failed to take it out. She gives Shin their status as they'll move to Vanadis now because the command center's position has been exposed. Lena then tells him, Captain Nozen, regarding how you gave 2nd Lieutenant Ida firing instructions earlier, you don't need to do that. Don't worry about what's happening on this side and focus on your battles. You don't have to do something so reckless. Shin was in the middle of fighting a Dinosauria as he tightened his lips, oddly displeased, making no effort to hide his emotions. No. Lena furrowed her brows and tells him, that's an order, Captain, which Shin refuses that order, telling her, I refuse that order. Are you even one to talk like that, Lena? At some point, Lena realized that she had been set as the sole target of Shin's resonance, and he didn't call her by her rank, which was necessary for an operation, but by her nickname. He tells her, you were the one who ordered me to return safely, so wait for me. We can't complete that objective if we don't have anywhere to return to, so let us return, Lena. At that moment, Shin was filled with hesitation and doubt, but pressed with strong emotion, and with that emotion constricting his throat, he finally said those words as if painfully coughing them out. Please don't leave me. I'll come back for sure, so don't leave me behind. Don't tell me not to protect you when you're in danger. I don't want you of all people, to order me to abandon you. You've asked me about this a few times already, if there's anything I want to do once the war ends. You told me I'm allowed to wish for things, even if I can't see the world as beautiful. Lena, These were the words he intended to say a few times already, the wish he was able to voice in front of Eugene's grave. But even so, saying it now overwhelmed Shin so much that he could feel his vision swimming. I want to show you the sea. I want to show you things you've never seen before. Places you can't see unless the war ends. So when it does, if we survive, let's see the sea together. This is what he wanted to say for the last 6 months. His reason for fighting. His wish. The thought of having them snatched away terrified him. That's why he'd always been afraid of having hope, gave up on it, and stopped thinking about it, because it caused him nothing but pain. However, he couldn't stand the idea of having Lena snatched away from him. Even though they have their differences, even though he knew his presence would cause her pain, he couldn't help but wish for it. The one and only wish he desired. So please, that's the only thing I can wish for right now. I can't see my own future yet, but please, don't take that away from me. Those words left Lena speechless. Those were the first words of vulnerability she had heard him speak. Lena had always believed he was strong, but he wasn't. He was a weak, cowardly, and fragile person. She thought about the words she used when she pleaded with him right before he left on his death march back in the 86th sector. Those were the same words Shin wanted to tell others for so long now, but he had entrusted himself to carry the memories of those who died, so he couldn't say those words to anyone. Lena responds to him, of course, I would never leave you behind. After all, you waited for me. Even after I told you not to leave me behind, I will never leave you behind. I will always be waiting. I promise. So take me with you. Once this war is over, show me the sea and all the sights I'll be able to enjoy if we win. Lena wished to support him. She wanted him to rely on her. She wouldn't let him carry all his burdens alone. She would never die and abandon him. And that's why you have to come back at all cost. You mustn't leave me behind either. You absolutely have to return. She said those words firmly, then took a breath. He likely wanted to say something. She sensed him open his mouth to speak, then blinked in surprise. Thank you. Thank you for counting on me, as unreliable as I might be. There's one more scene before the chapter ends, but I'm going to save it for the final video on this volume, cause this is a good spot to end it.